name and number so I can transmit your problems, whatever they are, in Guyana, or bridges falling down, or whatever. But call-in, we're going until 10 o'clock. We always do with call-ins on Fridays. Call-in, you can ask me anything about my politics, my history. I don't have any problems with people calling. So call me and let me know what's on your mind. Before the calls start rolling, I will have my little say and wait until you call. Now, let's start with democracy. There was a pronouncement on democracy by the American embassy. And if you read the Saturday editorial, the Sunday editorial of the Star Book News, they featured the American definition, the American perspective on democracy, and advise us that we need to follow on that part. I wish we could go back to the 70s, because in the 70s where I grew up in politics, it was commonplace to question the definition of democracy coming from the United States. But in that Sunday editorial, the Star Book News quoted the U.S. Embassy saying that Guyana, the opposition, the ruling party should communicate, people should talk, you need to keep an open mind about these things. And the Star Book ran with that pronouncement by the U.S. Embassy. The Vice President, Dr. Baba Jagdeo, gave a press conference this week in which he said the United States themselves have the entrenched position, and that is correct. It is very difficult for the United States and many of the countries that we think are democratic to lecture small developing countries on what is democracy, because they do not meet the criteria of democracy themselves. Now, let's make reference to what the Vice President said, that in the United States, they have the entrenched positions. And that is correct, and that is a mild word. United States politics is very, very divisive. In the United States, there's hardly any dialogue between those in power and those in the opposition. So they advise that communication is important and we must keep talking to each other. That hardly obtains in the US. I will give you hundreds of examples before we reach 10 o'clock. Our numbers are on the screen. My cell number is on the screen. If you call me, I will hear, because the speaker is on. Once you call me, I will interrupt my flow so you can have your say, because this is a night when people call in about their problems, about things they see, and also advise to make Guyana better. People also call in to give Jack his jacket, to give praise to the government that they think is doing a good job. So once the calls come in, I will interrupt my discourse with you or my dialogue with you, and you will have your say. But for now, I'm looking at the Star Book News editorial on Sunday, in which it offered the blueprint of the United States for us to follow in democracy. And I think we in the third world, we in the developing countries, have to be very careful when these large, developed, older countries lecture to us, because they do not meet the universal standard of universal criteria of democracy. Not that we in the third world do, but as they say in common parlance, pot telling imati, I bottom black. Those foreigners who listen, and this may not understand that, but simply means if you don't practice what you preach. Don't tell others. But let's get back to the editorial Sunday in which the newspapers started to the newspapers told its readers what the American embassy said about democracy, etc. Now, what are the things that we should do in Guyana along the lines of democracy as coming from the U.S. Embassy? It's important to have dialogue. It's important to talk, important to keep communication going. But the United States politics is very, very divisive and very toxic for the last 10 years. Now, I'll give you many examples. For example, right now in the United States, there are serious questions about the morality of some Supreme Court judges. Supreme Court judges in the United States do not retire. And it has been revealed that one particular judge has been in the pocket of a certain businessman. Take, for example, the Attorney General of the United States. The present Attorney General of the United States, named Merrick Garland. Let me hold that and take this call. Good evening. You're on to the program.
Good night to you, Brother Freddie.
Yeah, go on. I'm alone. Gildarie's not here.
Okay. You mentioned something about democracy. I believe our level of democracy is very poor because we don't like to obey the Constitution. Guyana don't. I wish to say Guyana. Guyanese officials in public office, government officials, all people don't like to obey the Constitution. The Constitution is a written document. We have a written Constitution, and we have certain things there are written, but we have to obey what is being written. Now there's supposed to be a constitutional reform, but I'm not certain if that will ever come barefoot before the next election because they seem to be dragging their feet on this constitutional reform. It's just lip service at the moment because I don't think there's serious about the constitutional reform. But what should happen with the constitutional reform? There should be some heavy warning for people who breach the Constitution, including the president. Like, because the president is not above the Constitution. The president is a creature of the Constitution. The Constitution is the highest thing in the land. The Constitution creates the presidency. So the president and all other citizens should obey the Constitution. Now the Constitution says, for example, there shall be a commission of police. Now in law, when you read the word shall, it's something that you must do. It's not you may do it or you do it when you feel like or when you want to do it. It's something that you must do. Right? But we many offices, like the Chancellor and the Judiciary, we do these things when they seems to be doing these things when they feel like or when they want or when it's... Now, the word acting, you cannot, if you say that somebody is the acting commissioner of police, then you have to show me where is the commissioner of police. You cannot have an acting commissioner of police and you don't have a commissioner of police. Acting means that you're in somebody else's place. So if you have somebody that is the acting if you don't have a commission, you have to name a commissioner. This is what the Constitution says. The Constitution says they shall be a commissioner. So the moment the position becomes vacant, according to the statute, you have to fill the position right again. And see, the same goes with all the other offices, the Chancellor, the Judiciary, the Chief Justice, and every other thing. Just like a president. The moment the presidency becomes vacant, you got to fill it. You can't be the president and there is no president. And this is what we keep doing over and over for years and years and years and years. We keep doing the same thing. We always like this one, acting. People can't be acting. There is nobody in position. If the position is vacant, somebody has to be named into the position. This is what the Constitution says, the Constitution, and say that you name somebody active when there is none.
Okay.
So that is Guyana dilemma. They're breaching the Constitution over and over with all these amount of acting. Acting means that you're in somebody's place. The president travels overseas, so the prime minister becomes the acting president because he is in somebody's place. If the president's presidency becomes vacant, you can't be acting president. You got to name a president. That's what the Constitution says, and it goes for all other offices. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming through. Bye. Well, I think you would have heard that caller. The numbers are on the screen. My number is 614-5927. My phone is right here, and it's on speaker. So if you call me, you should be able to get through with my little mango pelter. So I will continue with the Starbuck editorial of Sunday, in which they're putting forward the American advice as to how we should go about our politics. And I was saying this evening that I think though that advice is welcome, and it should be noted, many of the developed countries, they lecture us in the developing world about rule of law, rights and wrongs of politics, constitutional politics, democracy, but they do not meet those criteria. And I stopped at the point where I was talking about the present Attorney General of the United States. He was nominated by President Obama to sit on the Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, in 2016. At that time, the Senate was controlled by the opposition party. The Democrats held the presidency in Obama, and the Republican held the Senate. And they refused to even hold hearings on Obama's nomination. And Obama ended his presidency. Trump came into the presidency and nominated his own candidates to the Supreme Court, and they got through because the US Senate was controlled by Trump's party. So the question of the advice that in this country we should open lines of communication, we should keep talking. In the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats in the House of Representatives and the Senate, and the Republican Party versus the Democratic presidency, there is no line of communication. There's very much a toxic and poisonous atmosphere in American politics at the moment. So you Guyanese, when I grew up in politics in the 70s, those kinds of things you would have seen letters in the papers. You would have seen lectures at the university talking about the American approach to democracy. Is that the standard bearer? But something is lost in Guyana in the 21st century. Let me take this call. Hello? 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 Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yes, good night.
Good night.
You're talking about the U.S. trying to give Guyana some advice about how to conduct themselves.
Yeah, I'm listening, sir.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, and what I'm saying to you, it is traditionally in the U.S. and the same thing in Canada, whereby the party in power choose their key officer, so to speak. Trump, or former President Trump, he selected his own attorney general. As a matter of fact, in 4 years, he selected 2 attorney general. The first one didn't work out for him, so he got rid of it and got the second one. The thing is that the sad thing about it is that sometimes, I know for a fact, especially the U.S., they will tell a smaller country basically, how to run their government, and they themselves is disastrous right now. I'm sure that you know by now, right now, the Speaker of the House, McCarthy, is on his last string because some of his own people said that if he does not get some concession from President Biden, they're going to vote him out. And he went into the speakership with that condition that he could be voted out by.
Yeah, I'm aware of the circumstances. I follow American politics intensely.
Good, good. Now, the one of the things that I wanted to mention that I was very disappointed in Guyana with the president, and as you can recall, maybe probably about 9 months ago, Taiwan came down to Guyana, and they had an agreement with the government of Guyana. And the very, very next day, I guess the Chinese embassy got into the president, and they had to revoke that entire agreement which they had with Taiwan. And that tells me, or shows, the majority of people that the government of Guyana is still a little bit timid when it's come to China. So I believe that the bigger problem is with the Chinese government in Guyana, not so much the U.S. And I think that the U.S. need to force more of a tie. Guyana need to force more of a tie with the U.S. government, because for the Chinese government to tell Guyana government what to do and who they should have a relationship, that doesn't really make any sense to me. And basically that's my biggest concern, and I don't think that was done properly. I mean, what if people say to Guyana, I don't want to do business with you anymore because Venezuela is claiming 60%. It's the same analogy. China is claiming that Taiwan belongs to them, and Taiwan is claiming that they're an independent island. So it's the same analogy. Guyana can't do business with Taiwan because China wouldn't allow them to do that. People can say, our government can say to Guyana, well, we can't do business with you because Venezuela said they own you. So,
okay. Well, that's it?
I just thought it was a little... Yes, that's it.
Thanks. Can I ask the operator to come in here a minute, please? I just want to make sure I'm getting... can I ask the operator to come in here, please? I just want to make sure that we're getting the sound from my phone. I need the earpiece, please. My phone is giving... we're getting the sound from my phone? Oh, okay. Right. I just wanted to ask the operator if I'm getting the sound from my phone, because, of course, I have a little Mango Pelter, not the WhatsApp. So my number is on the screen, 614-5927, and the studio number is on the screen, 231-2982. Call us. We're going until 10. Let us know what are your problems, what are your solutions, what you think about anything at all. Okay, I just wanted to get my earpiece back on. Good. So let us get those calls from you. Leonard Gildarie is not here this evening. He has a pressing business engagement. So I'm going to do the show alone. I'm going to give you some of the topics that are on my mind. We had a specific topic this evening, but because Leonard Gildarie is not here, we open the lines to any type of calls. But the topic was, who are the enemies of democracy in Guyana? So let's talk about that. I think we've said enough about the American standard of democracy, that they lecture to small countries about what democracy. But before I go to who are the real enemies of democracy, I think we need to talk a little bit about the relation between developed capitalist. Here's a caller. Good evening.
Hey, Freddie, how you doing? Good night.
I'm doing all right.
Would you address, just you say the call-in show is open, would you address the deepwater port for me, please? Thank you. Bye.
A caller want me to address the Deepwater Harbor. I have to say, I have not studied it late. I don't think I want to give a mediocre explanation, or I want to give an explanation that doesn't meet the expectations of the caller and other callers. So that would need somebody who is familiar with it. I have to confess, I cannot give an informed opinion. Okay? Thanks. Yeah? You're on the program?
Good evening, Mr. Kissoon.
Hello?
I just wanted,
Yeah.
I just want to make a quick comment concerning this massive, lovely project you got going on.
Concerning what?
The project you got going on in that village.
Well, you could speak about the project here, but I'm not competently informed at the moment.
All I want to do is tell you that the EPA really needs to look at the amount of dust pollution the project is creating. All they need to do is trickle the mountains of sand that they got piling up for the project. It's a great project. Or you'd be taking the consideration. People can't open their doors in that area. They got everything locked up. So I was there and I saw this for myself. You know. So I made a call to CP and if they're really going to stop, they're going to go wrong on it. Yeah. So I just wanted to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thanks for coming through. Right, the numbers are on the screen, our studio number and my cell number. Let's talk about anything that you want to talk about. Leonard Gildarie is not here. So that gives me an opportunity to talk about, share my views with you on so many things. We started this evening by talking about the Starbook News extolling the American definition of democracy in its last Sunday editorial. The calls are important, so here we go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, madam. Hello? I think we've lost that call. So that is how we started, by looking at the American. Let's take this call. Good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Kissoon.
Yeah.
Responding to your topic, who is the greatest threat to the
Well, we don't have a topic anymore, but go on, speak about anything you want.
Yeah, the greatest threat to Guyana, I think, for me, is the APNUAS. Because if you look at the 28 years of PNC leadership, PNC government in Guyana, and the 5-year of the APNUAS, within that 5-year alone, from the unilateral election of the GCOM chairman onward, I think, to do a comparative analysis, the PPPC has outperformed the opposition when it comes to democracy, the rule of law, right? Because under the PPPC government, we would have seen tremendous progress in Guyana. You understand? The people or the political organization that try to steal power through the back door by any means, I think, is the PNC. not only to democracy, but Guyana's sovereignty. Well, like so.
Okay, that's it?
Yes.
Thanks. Hello? Hello? Hello, can you speak up? Hello?
You know that is true.
Pardon me? Can you talk up? Can you speak a bit louder?
You have a ring on your phone. That remember me a song, darling, you know that is true. You know that song?
Hello? We not get I didn't get that out the caller, so yeah, something seems to be wrong with our caller. Good, the numbers are on the screen. So hello?
Hey, Freddie,
Yeah?
you know that song, darling, you know that is true?
Yeah?
Right, that's how your phone sounds with a ring.
Okay, sir. Thanks for coming through. Thanks.
Anyway.
Right, thanks.
Yes, anyway. Sorry,
Okay.
Sorry to Miss Gildarie.
Okay.
But that, you know, down there, as I listen to the VP, that you have a half an hour of comments to make. You got to spend 20 minutes to debunk the bullshit that the opposition
Okay.
is saying and everybody.
Thanks. Let's take this call. Let's take this call that's coming in here. Hello?
Good night.
Good evening.
Miss Kissoon?
Yes?
I just an advice and observance. When the person's calling you on your cell phone, you can't hear what they're saying.
Oh, okay.
But maybe they should just call it on the landline.
Yeah, I've asked the operator to fix that, yeah. The last caller said that. Maybe if it doesn't work, we'll just have to call the landline. Listen, I really appreciate that. Thanks for your concern. Yeah, I thought my little mango pelter, when we put it on speaker, it could have worked.
No, you can't. It's not working.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Thanks. Well, I've asked the operator to see what he can do with my mango pelter, if he could increase the volume so people can hear. The operators told me that if they put it on speaker, then the audience, the viewers can hear, but it doesn't look like that. So let's talk about anything at all. I am carrying the program until 10 o'clock because Leonard Gildarie is not here. We've had some calls about the Deep Harbor port, about the threat to democracy by the PNC, and another caller said the government is not following the Constitution. So let's talk about that and other things. You're free to call in on anything at all. You're free to ask me anything at all. The operators are looking at my arm. Is it? Can it work now? If they call, we can hear now. Well, let's see. They have an incoming call. The operator is here. Let me see what happens here. Hello? Hello?
Yeah. I'd like to make my call.
You like to what?
Make my opinion.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? Can I go forward?
Yeah, sir.
Hello?
Yeah.
I'd like to follow up on that gentleman talking about the democracy in Guyana, right? Talking about democracy.
I'll have to call the operator back again. I don't think our viewers are hearing you. Just let me take this call and then I call in the operator. It doesn't look like my phone is working. Hello? Hello?
Hello, good night.
Yeah.
I see you asked a question on the enemy of democracy.
Yeah.
That's an interesting position you take there. But in a democracy, the systems that you have in place in your country, that you should allow the systems to work. In a democracy system, in a democracy, every institution have their roles and their responsibility, and those institutions are supposed to discharge their roles and their responsibility. So you have to allow the system to work. So, for example, we recently have what we call the local government election. But I'm wondering if Guyana really needs a local government election, because it seems to me that the government seems to be going out and doing everything that the NDCs and the town councils and the city are supposed to be doing. For example, let me talk about national cleanup. That is not work for the president and the army and the people. The NDCs and the council, the town council, that is their job. So if you have a democracy, the systems in a democracy, this democracy have levels, and it's supposed to work. If it is not working, you have to get to the root cause why it is not working and remedy the problem to make it work. No sense we spend billions and billions of dollars. I believe Ghana election is probably one of the most expensive elections per capita in the world. We spend billions of dollars to run off an election. What is sense you spending so many billions for it? We recently had a local government election. We all these councils and all these NDC people, all them did that just hearing recently. They're not working. Everybody just down back alignment again. So that's the first thing. The institution now, you have various institutions that are supposed to, they are the guardrails of democracy. For example, GCOM. GCOM is the institution that is in charge of election. They're supposed to be working, but they don't work. For example, you have a tainted list, and GCOM is reluctant to fix the list. Right? You have institution that's you're supposed to look after various responsibilities. If it's put institution in place, but nobody's doing anything. So the Starbuck article that you're speaking about is a correct article. We can say what we want about the US, but if this is not the US, this is Guyana. You cannot, not because somebody go and kill a man, you must go and kill a man too. Wrong is wrong. Not because this person do it wrong, you must go and do it. Right? So wrong is wrong and right is right. Somebody is doing wrong, but doesn't give you the right to go and do the wrong. You have to do the right. And a democracy is what we call a representative democracy. The parliament is the biggest failure of democracy in Ghana. The parliament, one side is going to say green, 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 the other side is going to say red, 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 and then the speaker just say those in favor say aye, and those who say those against say no, and then. So
you finish? So all the other countries that have parliaments, those countries' parliaments are failures?
I'm speaking about Guyana. I said the Guyana parliament is a failure.
No, Guyana parliament doesn't differ from the other parliaments in the world. The Guyana parliament, because the speaker is not a representative of the House. The speaker is not an elected member. The speaker is not an elected member of parliament. The speaker is there to moderate discussion. So the last parliament. So what's wrong with the speaker? The speaker is trying to moderate the elected representative of the House. The two sides are elected representative of the House. He is there to moderate discussion. He is not there to stop you from discussing things. He is not there to stop the nation, send people in there to speak for them. Oh, he's not there to regulate the conduct of members. He's not there to, so you can,
Not there to stop them from speaking.
if they speak, no, sorry. As a member of parliament can get up and speak or whatever you want. Have you any experience in looking at how other parliament around? The speaker stop members from saying unruly things, from saying uncouth things. The other thing I want to get at, you seem to feel that democracy rests on government alone. Governments do not provide or ensure democracy. Governments alone do not ensure democracy in a country. Democracy.
I never used the word government yet. I said the institution used to allow the system to work.
But you didn't call.
The government have a responsibility to ensure that it's
you call institutions. You said GCOM, etc. When we
government supposed to allow systems to work. Institution.
No. That's not democracy. Democracy is much wider than government. When we formulated the topic, who are the enemies of democracy, we had in mind people who supposed to have responsibility to ensure the social fabric is maintained, and they are reckless, like the private media. For the past couple centuries.
So you don't agree that the NDC and the local government system is supposed to work. You against that?
I don't know. They're not. You are telling me.
And the layers of government, local government, NDCs, they shouldn't be doing anything. So you're saying that the last local government is a waste of time.
So you are telling me.
No, I'm telling you that the system is supposed to work, and you tell me that
you want me? Are you going to wait for me to?
With all your millions of degrees and sociology that you have, government have the highest level of responsibility in every single country in this world. They have the highest level of responsibility.
Are you finished? You finished? Hello, are you there? But he doesn't want to carry on the debate for obvious reasons. So he made his point and he's gone. So I'm going to make my point now. The government is one part of a functioning democracy. There are several other parts of a functioning democracy. Let me give you an example. Whenever it's World Press Day, whenever it's Press Freedom Day, you get all kinds of lectures and philosophical pronouncements all over the world about. Let me take this call. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah? I think we have to discontinue my cell phone calls because it is on speaker, but it's not loud enough for the viewers to hear. So what I can do is probably put it to my ear and tell the viewers what is being said. Let me take it closer to my ear, and so I will tell the viewers what's your viewpoint. Yeah? Yeah, I'm listening. Well, somebody called. Okay, let me tell the viewers what you're saying. This caller is saying the topic of who is the enemies of democracy. He thinks the PNC is one of the enemies of democracy. When we formulated the topic, we wanted to look at institutions that are supposed to be endowed with certain obligations. And when those obligations fall down, democracy goes with it. And one of those obligation is the press. My operator signaled that we'll have to finish my cell phone calls because it's not working. So I'll have to take the phone off. Good. So sorry, but all that follow-up, I don't have a WhatsApp. Gildarie is not here, and I apologize for my little mango pelter. The operator and I went together, and we thought that if I put it on speaker, it could work. Could you please call the landline? I know if the WhatsApp is better, but if you're overseas, bear up with me and call the landline and let's have a chat. The last caller didn't want to continue the discussion. Well, he had his say. His say is that the government is not allowing the local government system to run. The government wants to go here and there. I don't accept that. I've lived in this country all my life, and I've seen the local government in the Georgetown City Council having its say and doing its thing. So I don't know. I don't accept that the central government is not allowing the local government system to work. I don't know where he came up with that, but the central government also has a responsibility of cleaning the drains where I live. And if the local government system, if the authority, if the city council, I live in Georgetown, cannot clean my drains, then I would welcome the central government to clean it. I mean, who wouldn't? So, if you just join us, I am taking the program until 10. Leonard Gildarie gave us late indication that he would not be here, so I didn't have time to invite someone to share the program. It's kind of insulting to call people 4 hours before and ask them to be on the program. So I decided I would experiment and see if I can hold the program on my own until 10 o'clock. If not, I've given it my best shot. The lines are open. I thought you could have called my cell number, but 231-2982 is open. Feel free to call. Have your say. If you're critical of the government, have your say. This program will not deny anybody to have their say. If I think you're making some points which do not have a basis in reality, I will ask that my reply be accepted or allowed. But call in, have your say, whatever you want to say, and do that within the framework of an intellectual discourse rather than being personal. So that's it where we stand at the moment. Leonard Gildarie is not here. I am taking your calls. If there are no calls, I will continue with my discussion. We had put the topic, who are the enemies of democracy? And I want to make the point to people who are listening wherever they are. And I want to emphasize this point with tsunamic force because it's part of political theory. A government alone does not ensure the functioning of a society and the preservation of its values. Central power, perhaps, is the highest in the land. That's the executive, the parliament, the presidency, the prime minister, his or her cabinet. They have enormous power. But a society can still be endangered. And let's take this call. Good evening. You're on to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. I am running the program alone this evening. Gildarie is not here. Please have your say, sir, or madam.
Hi. Good night, sir. Good night, Freddie. I have been listening to your program. I was on since you started. I want to talk a little bit about traffic and the roads.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I know that you had said before you had invited the traffic chief.
Well, I've invited him, and he said he has to get permission from the commissioner of police. I've called the commissioner of police, and he said he will look into it. And I've spoken to him a couple of times. Well, I met him 2 months ago in the seawall, and I reminded him that he need to come on, the traffic chief need to come on, but nothing doing. Gildarie Gildarie informed me about 2 weeks ago that they said that they will come on the program.
Yeah,
So we're waiting on them.
it's important that somebody comes on and maybe put up a defense, because I think what is happening on the road is sheer madness. And not only here where I live on the East Coast, it's happening even in the Barbies area. It's happening on the East Bank. I'm fearful now of driving to the East Bank because it's really, really terrible. And somebody has to keep the car and say, I will try to fix this. Now, the government is in power, and the government should start framing proper laws. And they could, if they cannot by themselves form laws, follow what happens in the United States. You tell a driver, if you are to be driving and you're kind of under influence, we're going to take away your vehicle, take away your license, and you cannot drive again for 5 years. Let people know that this thing is serious, and you'll be surprised that people start listening. They go over to the United States and drive, and you could see the difference of the same driver that you have in Guyana.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And no, stay on the line. You know why they do that? You know why they abide? Because they know their consequences. From the time civilization started, philosophers have written about the need for laws and rules so people can obey them. Ancient philosophers have written that in a society you have to have rules, and if you have rules, then you'll get a civilized behavior. But let me tell you what, are you there?
Yes, I feel.
Let me tell you what can help solve this traffic thing. Let me tell you what can get dangerous drivers off the road. I go to the seawall every afternoon with my dog, and they have landscaped the seawall very beautifully. It's the work of the president's wife. So they stop parking where people need to enjoy themselves, go by the bandstand, what have you. People ignored the no parking sign and have been ignoring it. You know what the police did? The police started to clamp the cars on the seawall that not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
The police started that about a month ago. You know, when you go to the seawall now, there are no cars there. You know why? The message has been passed on that if you go in those no parking zone, the police going to clamp your car. The police, the government have cameras all over this place. When you see a driver move over from another lane and drive recklessly, you capture that image, you get GRA to tell you where he's living because of the registration of the car, and you haul him in. You know, after 2 months, you will see the changes. The authorities have to have a no-nonsense approach to these people. What are all these surveillance cameras in the whole country for? I go by the seawall, the surveillance cameras are there. If you look at the roundabout at Chevy Street, the surveillance cameras are there. If you the monitoring agency for the surveillance cameras are at the back of the International Convention Center. You get those images and you charge those people. It's not going to stop in a week or 2 weeks. But after 4 months, 5 months, you're going to see the change. You have to confront. I honestly believe that we have the worst drivers in the world. Some of the things I see these people do, they would not do that even in a country that is throwing my wall. Something is psychically wrong with the drivers of this country. It's macabre, it's bizarre, it's incredible. No other country have those kind of drivers, man. What I see on this road every day, no, people are going to die from heart attack in their car when they see how these drivers drive. Anyway, thanks for coming through.
My point, on the other hand, I was talking about the traffic chief. If he cannot function as a traffic chief and help to look after what's happening on the road, he should give up. Allow somebody to take his position. Because if he cannot come and answer some simple questions here on your program, He's fearful and he's not good enough.
No, I know him well.
View, that is my view.
Okay, I know him well. He's a very decent man and a very professional man. But he has to get permission from the Commissioner of Police. He said to me, I am willing to come. I know that man very well. He's one of my favorite policemen. I think he's courteous and he is willing to do his job. And I think once the police commissioner gave him permission, he told me he would come here.
But this is not a month ago that y'all started. You started that month.
Yeah, we're in the 15th month now, but he cannot come on his own.
Yeah, but
I know that.
Ask the police commissioner himself.
Yeah, I've asked him several times.
Yeah,
I met him on the seawall and I've asked him.
Yeah.
Thanks for right. Okay, bye-bye. Yeah, the traffic thing. That was a good call. But let me get back to the topic that no longer is applicable, because I thought with Gildarie here we would have had a discussion on who are the enemies of democracy. Now, when that call came in, I was making the point that it's traditional in political theory. No person entered the university door to study sociology or study political theory can deny. And we in Guyana, the young people, stop believing that democracy is given to a country, is given to a society by the government. The government is one of the planks on which democracy rests. When World Press Freedom comes around every year, don't take my word for it. Google what the embassies in Guyana say when World Press Freedom comes around. Read what is said around the world when World Press Day comes around. The priceless value of the press, of the media, it's called the fourth estate. You have the estate of the government, the judiciary. The media is seen as one of the pillars on which democracy rests. And Chedi Jagan is dead and gone. And one of the themes he had in his political life is that you have to be careful of a media that becomes politicized, reckless, and has a political agenda. And one of the fine work that Dr. Jagan did in his lifetime is to show you where the media went about in countries helping to overthrow governments. So the point I'm making is that if you don't have a media community, then democracy is endangered. Democracy is endangered if you don't have a judiciary that performs professionally. And when we announced the topic, who are the enemies of democracy, we meant people like civil society groups that do things that endanger society. Let me give you some examples. I'll take this call. Good evening.
Yeah, Mr. Freddie Kissoon. You know, Guyanese get raw deals all the time while they go foreign. Why the government can't put duty free on the vehicle? The government to use their minister and the school people and get free duty free. The farmer can't get them. And the people who live in the United States can't get them, Freddie Kissoon. I want you to shine the light on it. Tell me about that.
Repeat that again. What is it you want? Hello?
Right. The government supposed to give duty free to the Guyanese people who live overseas to send vehicles for themselves to use. Duty free without asking no question. Even the rice farmer don't get the break for getting duty free. You got to go up, kiss minister has to get it, or somebody has to get it. And that is wrong. Now duty free and container, Guyana can be a food basket for all the states in the world to send food in Guyana. But the government that keep Guyanese people down to ride them. That's what the problem. Tell me.
All right. Thanks for coming through. Thanks. Bye-bye. Yeah, so back to the topic that you have civil society groups in this country. I've lived all my life in this country. I've studied this country. That is my job. I do a daily column for the Chronicle. I've been writing for 35 years, columns in the newspapers. My job is to study the society and write about it. And I've never seen, in all the years I've lived in this country, where you have a democratic system and you have private media that is working against the government and doing it so openly. Civil society groups. If you study political, let me take this call. Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah? Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, I would like to respond to somebody call, especially for talking about duty free and whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has been smoking something this afternoon or whatever. However, I have to respond to some of what you have been saying and some of what the people have been saying in terms of the democracy in Guyana, democracy in the U.S. Right? I live in the U.S. boss, right? And the democracy is crumbling here badly big time. Right? This is the country now where you can come in, commit a crime, and tomorrow you're out in the street. I kid you not. They're going to have something called bail reform, who's introduced by some jackass named what's her name? The governor of the U.S. And the governor of New York. I just can't think of her name right now. But you can commit a crime tomorrow or today. You can go to the right store, team up the $900, and you're free to go. Kathy Hooker, that's her name, by the way. And it's sickening what's happening here. I mean, people coming into the U.S., they are given 3 meals a day, put them into housing, and if they are going to the street in New York, they're robbing people and beating up people. Right? I am afraid that will eventually take place in Guyana with the influx of the Venezuelans and the Brazilians that are hitting our country right now. I know that you might not agree with my position because you have got a very strong stand against the U.S. And that's okay with me. But one thing I'd like to remind you is that the U.S. restored democracy in 1992 and in 2020. And it has been done by Republican government. George Bush and Donald Trump. Obama and the rest of the Obamas never played a part. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, sir. Good. Our numbers are on the screen. My cell number has been taken off. It didn't work out. Can't handle calls through the system here. So our studio numbers on the screen. Please call us and feel free to talk anything you want to talk about within moderation. You're allowed to speak your mind. You feel the government is doing wonderful, then make that point. You think the government should be found wanting, make your point, but do it within an intellectual mode so you don't get personal with anyone. So let's continue. Good evening. You're on to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show.
Good evening, Mr. Kissoon. Your last caller stated that the Americans restored democracy in 92 and in
2020. 2020.
2020?
Yeah.
But he doesn't know history, and he doesn't know right from wrong. The Americans were the same. Wasn't the Americans the same people who helped Fox Born and rig the elections all the years? So how come they come now to restore democracy? Was the CIA who was behind Bornham with rigging the election?
Hold a sec.
America is not the yardstick.
Okay, hold a sec. I'm gonna allow you to
democracy. Who measures what is democracy?
Yeah, I know. I want to say one thing before, and then you're gonna go on. I want to say one thing because it's important He said the American restored democracy in 1992. But there was no need to restore democracy in 1992 if the Americans had allowed Guyana to have free and fair elections from 1968 onwards. So the very people that were involved in restoring democracy in Guyana took it away long before 1992. So continue, sir.
I agree with you. I don't disagree with that. But what I'm saying, they have...
I know you're saying that. I know you're saying that.
But what I'm saying, no, the call is saying that they come and restore democracy. They're the people who interfere in elections all over the world. These people are fools. There's never no elections. There's always a selection. Why is this a government that rejects America or goes against America? America wants to get regime change. There's no democracy. What democracy? They use America to measure the standard of democracy. What democracy? The same people that help Boredom is the same people that help in these. So when the government gets up and criticizes Boredom, they must criticize the Americans and be honest. Okay, Mr. Kissoon.
Yeah, thanks for coming through. Thanks. Bye-bye. Well, you listened to the caller before that. We did say that American restored democracy in 1992. But you wonder if... Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Kissoon. A little change from local stuff. Have you been noticing the global overheating that has affected us here in Guyana?
Of course, but certainly not with the same intensity as elsewhere.
No, but in the evenings, there are a couple of things you should look at. Something called the wet bulb temperature and the dew point. There are several graphs that are available on the internet. And I could tell you, like in the evenings, when the humidity becomes what they say dangerously high, and this is what affects a lot of pensioners, older people like myself and you and so on. So I think we should have some kind of public awareness, because this thing is going to kill a lot of people. This heat, overheating, heat stress, especially on older people. In Guyana and elsewhere. So, but
it's not. I mean, I have some age in me, so I'm certainly not a young person. But I don't think it's that bad in Guyana. Although I must say, I can't speak about inside the interior. I live next to the Atlantic Ocean, and I experience the breeze in the night, and I think that helps. Yes. That helps it.
Yes.
But from what I've been reading,
people are not in that position.
Yeah, from what I'm reading, it's bad outside, and I wouldn't like that kind of intensity to come here.
Yes, and earlier today I heard Dr. Jagdeo say that the peak demand for electricity is 170 megawatts right now. 172. 172. The peak demand is 172, but the supply, the maximum supply of gas is 170. And he said that most likely it will increase, the peak supply will increase with global heating, because more ACs will be required and more fans and so on, and putting more pressure on the electrical system. So it's something to look at.
Yeah.
Because when you get blackouts, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Especially at night.
Yeah, I know.
Using fans.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
of course.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Sure.
I don't know how you've been feeling about the heat. I hope the bad, intense heat that other countries are experiencing, I hope we don't get that here. I can't say, I know it's hot here, but it's not as bad for what I've been reading in some European countries, etc. Of course, I live on the coast. I live right across from the Atlantic Ocean, so that helps. But I mean, going in the interior, it must be very hot in Lethem, what have you. I hope it's not as bad as in other countries. Well, I think it's not as bad as in other countries. But if you're now joining us, it's let me go to my Mango Pelter. It's 9:42. We go up to 10. Please pick up the phone and call on anything that's on your mind. traffic, government, opposition, anything. We reserve these Friday evenings for people to air their views. And there's no restriction except if you step into libel, we'll have to cut you off because nobody's going to sue us because of your irresponsibility. But so far, it's been very good with the callers the past 15 months. So please call in and let me know how you feel. If you just joined us for the last half an hour, Leonard Gildarie had a business emergency. He's not here. And then we had a terrible foul up in the studio. In case you didn't join us from the beginning, I thought I could put my little phone on the speaker and people can call, but it didn't work. Here's a caller. Hi there. Welcome to the program.
Very good night. There's something I hear nobody really talking about. What about the Chancellor and the Chief Magistrate? They hold back all these cases. You know, the Chancellor in our country should step down. And all these election cases, none of them is trying. What about the Chief Magistrate? He should step down too. And I'm concerned a bit like the vending in town now. You don't even have place for certain street to drive. You can't go by a store and park so you would buy something from this store. You got no way to park the vendor, take over the pavement, the road, all over what the city hall doing.
Well,
very concerned about these things, and nobody is saying nothing.
Well, let me. You want to stay in the line? You just want to make a point, or you want to hear a reaction from me? Just let me know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel. I wouldn't be put it as strong as you did with the Chancellor and the Chief Magistrate, but I think those election cases need to be heard. On the question of vending, I think we have to be very, very careful about it. And I think the Vice President of the country has said it, that you have to give people time. About vending, I think I can't in my conscience say that I'm against vending. I don't think at a philosophical level I could ever be against vending. I come from dirt poverty, so I know what it is like to want to eat when the day comes. And I think those vendors are poor people. I know people have a right to walk on the pavement. What is the solution? I don't know. But I don't want to make a pronouncement against mass removal of vending. No, my conscience will not allow for that. Thanks for coming through. If you have anything else to say.
Oh, that's what I say for now. But
Okay.
if they're taking over the road, everything, nobody got a problem with vending. But every day, the next vendor come in, all of them gang into one place, and they take it over the pavement, the road. There is no, you got a place to drive the car park, all they take it over.
Okay. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming through.
Okay.
Right. Call us. We have, let's see. We have 15 minutes more. We go up to 10. So far, it's been all right, except for the foul up, which I apologize most profusely. If you didn't join us at the first 15, 20 minutes of the program, I had put on my cell phone and hoped that when you put it on speaker, it would filter through the audio system and viewers who are looking at the program would hear it just as they're hearing this landline or when Gildarie has his WhatsApp. It didn't work and some people weren't hearing. I was not hearing them. And so I apologize for my ignorance of these technical matters, but we all are ignorant in some area or the other. And I thought that it could work there. So my apologies. We have the landline. So far, it's been going all right, and we're having the calls. Please call me and let me know what is on your mind. Please ask me any question you want to. Someone asked me about the port harbor. I can't say I could give a competent thing about that. Let's take this call. Hi there. You on to the program?
Yes, Freddie. Back on your topic of enemies of democracy. In my view, there are two sets of enemies. The external, which would be powers, the companies, the governments outside, who want to influence and we, the members of the public, we have our biases. And that these biases in terms of that we continue to have these biases, and we, instead of having a system working out, we damage the system. The system now becomes subverted to ensure that my narrative is carry the narrative, which might have a political or other biases. That is my view.
Thanks. Thanks for coming through. Well, that last caller said that he gave me a food for thought when he said some of the enemies of democracy are those big countries. I'll give you one example. The European Union have pressed this small country, this young country with a small population, have pressed it to abolish the death penalty. Let's take this call. Good evening. Hello?
I would like to really respond to your partner was supposed to who asked you about democracy in Guyana or whatever. I would like to remind him, sir, and you also, right? Democracy was denied under the Democrats of the U.S. What the guy named John F. Kennedy. Right? So let him put that in his pipe and smoke it. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thanks. Yeah. Well, if you find it irritating that I'm making a point and then there's a call and I stopped to take the call and we got lost somewhere along the line, that is understandable. The calls, it's your night. The guy just said he wants to remind us that democracy was lost in Guyana when there was a Democratic president in the United States, John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was the president who was involved in the intrigue in the 60s that led to the removal of Chedi Jagan. So I think if he's listening, the point is taken. But what he was saying is that when democracy was restored, you had a Republican president. But I think the previous caller was talking about the American system. It was the Americans that undermined democracy in Guyana in the 60s. So the fact and the historical fact remained that the Americans undermined democracy in the 60s. Whether it's was a Democratic president or a Republican president. So I think the last caller probably missed that point, that we're talking about the American system, but he seemed to feel that he wants us to know that in 2020 and in 2022, there were Republican presidents when the Americans allowed free and fair, helped to facilitate free and fair election. But one of the points, hello there? Hello, I'm not hearing you. Something is wrong with your phone or your volume. No, I'm hardly hearing you.
I want to get onto Freddie Kissoon.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I want to get onto...
You're onto the program, but you have to speak up.
Yeah, I want to speak up to Freddie Kissoon show.
Yes, you're on the show, sir. If you don't speak up and make your point, we'll have to move on.
Yeah, but my point is that I want to speak up about that we are having a problem in Barbados where land court judges are not available. We have land court matters since 2018 and we couldn't...
Oh, listen, I know about that. The land court system in Barbados. No, that is unfair to Barbadians. It's unfair to people. I know about that. I know a case where I don't want to get into any libel. A land court judge left the land court to take up a very important position and left all his judgments. Didn't give judgment. So I'm hearing you with concern, sir. I am.
We have land court matter pending since 2018 in Barbados.
2018.
You
remember when the EP government won the election in 2020, sometime after they say that they will be a land court judge in Berbice. So until now we cannot get a land court judge in Berbice.
I know the Attorney General spoke about that, and there are people who may not like what I'm about to say, but I believe the Attorney General is one of the better politicians in this world, and I think he has that in mind. I don't know when last I see ministers of the government, but if I do run into him, or I happen to speak to any minister, I will raise that issue with you. I promise that sincerely. I could understand.
I appreciate that, but I do appreciate too that the Attorney General is one of the best politicians in the world too. But I do appreciate. So I am looking forward. Not myself alone, but a lot of Barbadians are looking forward for a speedy solution to that problem.
Yeah, I think most of us who care about people's rights should make that an urgent matter. Every one of us. I'm glad you raised that, and when we have call-ins again, please call and raise it again. Please call me before the show. I'll give you my cell number, 614-5927. No, people's.
I will come at Freddie.
Okay.
I will.
Okay. Thanks a lot for coming through.
Land court matter pending so long since 2018.
Yeah.
In the High Court concerning land court.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Let's see if we can get a few more calls in before it's 10 o'clock. Time flew.
Thank you.
And time flies. Right. Thanks. I haven't gotten 90% of the topics I wanted to discuss because the phone, well, let me see if I can get in a few topics of mine. The guy talk about one of the enemies of democracy is foreign countries. The European Union have pressed Guyana over the past 20 years to abolish the death penalty. Guyana is trillions of miles away from closeness to the European Union, individual countries, as the closest the European Union enjoys, with Saudi Arabia, the United States. The United States is one of the countries that execute lots of people every year. Saudi Arabia execute lots of people every year. There could never be a closeness between Guyana and those European countries as the closeness of Saudi Arabia and the European Union and the United States. The United States and the European Union countries are intimate, philosophically tied friends. But they haven't influenced the United States to stop the death penalty. They haven't influenced Saudi Arabia, the head of which will be visiting the UK, I think, in a month's time. But they pick on small countries because they give these small countries aid. Do you know how many countries that are very close to the European Union have the death penalty? Execute people by the dozens every year, but they pick on small countries. They come to Guyana, they give Guyana aid, and they tell Guyana, abolish the death penalty. You could imagine President Obama went to Kenya, and one of the things he requested in a poor African country is that they must observe gay rights. And so the then president said to him, we have no problem with that. It's what the Kenyan people want. The Kenyan people, that is not in the Kenyan people agenda. We want potable water, drinkable water. We want proper roads. You have that. So you can talk about gay rights. When we have that, then we can talk about gay rights. So that caller is very, very wise to understand that some of the enemies of democracy in these small countries are foreign powers, and they come and they lecture to us on what is democracy. So we've got a few minutes left. please call in and say what's on your mind. I have a lot of my mind that I wanted to speak in the hour and a half, but we weren't able to get it. So let's see if there are any other callers, because we're coming down to 10 o'clock. I hope I did a good job holding the fort for an hour and a half. I do think that Gildarie presence mean a lot, and it gives the show another dimension that it wouldn't have if it's Gildarie alone and if it's me alone here. But I hope I give it my best shot. I'm really sorry for the foul up for my mango pelter. I thought it could be a good substitute for Gildarie. What's up? It didn't work, so it wouldn't happen anymore. I wouldn't pursue it anymore. But it looks like we're coming down to time and there are no more calls. So let me wrap up by saying that it's been a pleasant hour and a half taking your calls and giving my little viewpoints. I think we have about 5 minutes more because we started 4 minutes late. So let's take this call. Hello, sir. Hello? 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 Somebody called. Oh, we lost that call. Yeah, I've looked at my mango pelter and we started 5 minutes late, so we have 5 minutes more. So call and let's find out what's on your mind. Do you have any solution for shaping the future of Guyana? Do you have any suggestions of how we could improve life in this country? Do you have any thoughts about people who don't want us to enjoy our oil wealth, don't want us to enjoy what we have never had the past 100 years? Sorry the time is going down, but we do have 4 minutes more. So if while I'm waiting on the call, we can go back to the topic of who are the enemies of democracy. And it all started when, in case you didn't join early, I wanted to look at the Starbuck News editorial on Sunday, in which it put forward the United States blueprint for democracy. And the editorial began to chastise the government and say the government's understanding of democracy is limited. And so I replied to the editorial in my daily Chronicle column today by saying, you cannot chastise the government for being limited in democracy unless you do a comparative analysis. Which other country has a democracy that meets the textbook standard? Who are these countries? The United States, Germany, Barbados, Jamaica, Holland. Are they democracy better than us? Are they practicing a form of democracy that is higher than us? Too many times we allow rich countries, because they give aid, because they're powerful countries in the world, to come down here and lecture to us. Do you know, for a very, very long time, the democracies in the CARICOM area, those islands of Jamaica, Dominica, Antigua, those countries have had free and fair elections without any problems for decades and decades. Guyana, the Caribbean, has been seen as a sea of tranquility from the time they got independence. You know, when you hear about democracy, nobody talks about India being the #1 democracy in the world. When you have a country like India, whose judges are fiercely independent, a country with over 50 different languages and different culture, and it's held together. The way Supreme Court judges are appointed in the US is very undemocratic. United States, you win an election based on the decision of the Electoral College. In democracy, is one person, one vote. That is essential to democracy. You can lose an election in the United States based on the Electoral College. So it's not that I'm knocking the United States. I am no fan of Russia. I am no fan of China. I used to admire Fidel Castro when I was young. He spent 5 months short, 50 years in power. I think the president of Russia is a very, very dangerous man with a dangerous mind. That man is behind the killing of people who criticize him. So I am no fan of Russia. I live in this part of the world where the Americans have their influence, and so the American presence in our country is important. So I analyze that. But I am no fan of the Chinese government. So I think our time has come. That's it. We will be here on Monday. We have some interesting guests coming up next week. I'm glad we had the hour and a half of exchange in which I carried the show alone. I hope I did a successful job. I hope what I said did not shock you or did not, you found unpalatable, but those are my views. Likewise, I respected the callers that came and pronounced on things that I don't agree with. For example, I don't think the central government is interfering with the local government system. But that's it. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for keeping my company. We will be here next week for sure. It was a pleasant ride. It was a pleasant journey the past hour and a half. Leonard Gildarie wasn't here. I apologize to him. I apologize for the foul up in my little mango pelter. I will see you on Monday, hopefully with Leonard Gildarie. As I always say, catch you later.